Hello, possums. Here you are. You found your way to Tarot Down Under. That's me, Lena, coming to you from Australia, which means I'm in tomorrow. It's already Monday here. Okay, so much has happened this week. I think there was a sheriff who went in and shot a judge in Kentucky, and then I heard nothing more about it. Talk about the Wild West. A professional law officer goes and shoots a judge, and it's barely made the news cycle. Infinitely crazy, but in the plus column. Now, remember last video, I'm sure a lot of you would have seen anyway, about Joe Rogan, who's, I think, the biggest podcaster in the world or something. I mean, he's certainly up there. And he famously said Trump lost the debate, walked into the traps. Kamala's got it in the bag, was his opinion. But since then, even better, Nick Fuentes. Okay, self-proclaimed proud neo-Nazi, anti-Semite, white supremacist, and he's been a MAGA leader in all this. And he caught that phrase when the Yeti said last week, "Oh, only lost by a whisker." Yeah. We all went, oh, it's another Yetiism, if only people would listen. But look what happened. Nick Fuentes went berserk in a good way, if there's such a thing for a white supremacist. And he said, if you knew you lost, I would have liked to have known before my assets were frozen, before I was turned down by 5 banks, before I was put on the FBI no-fly list. No, honey, you did all that yourself. So no sympathy. But the awesome thing is he's going hard. And I'm going to put this clip up. Sorry, I forgot last week's clip. I promise I'll put up Nick Fuentes on someone's show. It's only a few minutes. And if he was a commentator on MSNBC, you'd go, who's this lovely young man who's seen the light? I had no idea how young he was to be such a force for evil in the world. So I'm hoping he's on a steep learning curve, but we'll get to him. In the Mentor and North Carolina. Okay. Now, two things are happening. I'm sure there's a million more things, but two main things in North Carolina this week. One is the Republican National Committee is suing the State Board of Elections because the State Board of Electors allowed students to use their student ID from one of the main universities, a public university, a government university, an American university, that already you have to jump through all the hoops to get your ID. And they don't want students to vote, do they? No, 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 no. And so let's have a quick look. What will happen with that? The North Carolina Board of Electors being sued by the Republicans, basically for letting young people vote. And it's not just in North Carolina. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful things stopping young people who are on campus. They have to go back to where they live, and some states they can do it by mail, and others they can't, and all this needs an overhaul, folks. But let's have a look. North Carolina, this case. What will happen with this case? The NC Republicans and the electors. Oh, my cards are upside down. Could be an upside down judgment, but I don't think so. Okay. Well, here we go. Now, it's perfectly appropriate that the Republicans end up getting the card of nostalgia with this Six of Cups because they like everything that starts yesterday and preferably goes back 2,000 years. They live in nostalgia land. Okay, so people are on both sides of this debate. Here we have the lovers I've got into this habit from being on Hogarth's channel of covering the nudie bits. Okay, so the lovers means coming to some sort of deal or arrangement, except they can't. They're held up for now. They've got to convince someone of a particular perspective and point of view here. So they're not going to have a peaceable thing. Like, I think they're being offered some sort of olive branch or something. If you don't accept that, will you accept this? Or that's on our books and, you can't change it 5 minutes to midnight, something. But this is definitely held up and they will have to wait for the judgment. And as we know, these things aren't quick. However, you'd hope to see it before the election, wouldn't you? You really would. Can't believe this system. But these are big cards. There's three major arcana out of four, which means in this case, what they're doing here, all the other red states are looking. Like if the Republicans get a win on this, you can bet your bottom dollar all the other states will be trying their best. But I'm not sure they will because it's held up and then the judgment comes down and people wake up with the judgment card. Hmm. Okay. Now, um, before we leave North Carolina, there's that awful guy, Mark Robertson. He's the Lieutenant General for Lieutenant Governor, sorry. I'm a bit sleep deprived. Grand dogs and what have you. So, Mark Robertson, Lieutenant Governor, also in North Carolina. Strangely, he seems to think his path is, as a black man, to proudly proclaim himself to be on multiple forums, including pornography sites. Don't you love these people? They actually go and converse on pornography sites and then want to bring in Taliban-esque behaviors. Anyway, he's been on all sorts of sites saying proudly he's a black Nazi. He runs down Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King Jr. He's gone as far as saying if slavery was illegal, he would buy slaves. There's no words. There's no words, so we're not going to read on him because it's beyond foul. But of course, the Yeti thinks he's a great guy. They deserve each other. Okay, now let's have a look here. We'll just have a quick look in how Mark Meadows is going because he keeps losing these cases where he's trying to get his election interference cases in Georgia and Arizona moved. There might even be a third one, at least those two. They failed. Where's Mark Meadows at? I want to know personally where's his head at because, of course, the Yeti would have forgotten his name. The Mark Meadows case is a bit strange in lots of ways because his staff gave up all the documents at the time. Mark Meadows, how's he travelling? Mhm. Well, he's very confused and he's going to have to make a plan. I think until now, look, these people live in La La Land. Disneyland now spreads across half of the United States. I think he thought until this latest judgment he'd keep fighting and do the Trump thing, just keep it going in court, and you never know. The man who he knows to be amoral, who he knows to be a cretin, who he knows is absolutely a wolverine that's had a lobotomy. He knows that about Trump, but he was still thinking he could fight like Trump. He's now very confused and he's going to quickly have to make a decision before he goes to court. And so I think with the speed here, meaning Does he have to come clean now to stay out of jail or at least stay away from being sanctioned? Um, so I think he's worried, and I think that's perfectly appropriate. So let's crack on here. The lovely Aileen Cannon. Now, she's been going holidaying and partying with Leonard Leo and the others of the Federalist Society that are sort of these Old Testament moneyed weirdos, absolute woofs. And she's failed to declare some of these, quite a few of these. Have a quick look at Aileen. And this last one involves Rob Luther, and he was the one who vetted her and recommended her for the appointment via the Yeti and all of that. Now he's been roped into this. I think so many of these legal things are circling back. Aileen Cannon, we're still waiting on the 11th Circuit. They need a rocket. Oh, the 11th Circuit, what's taking them so long? But will this be another nail in the Aileen Cannon coffin? Or will she just float on by? Aileen Cannon. Oh, she's in a time warp as well. They are. They're all in this time warp. There's a victory here, and I suspect, unfortunately, it's for her that she's, you know, limping on till the next installment by the 11th Circuit or something. In other words, this case isn't going to shame her or in any way. And this is her Federal Society, Heritage Foundation, all those very conservative groups. Now, as I said, there's the victory card, which unfortunately I think is her. However, she doesn't entirely escape. This is a young person with a microphone. My vibe is maybe Jasmine Crockett or someone like that who is there to point out the obvious to the world. So, although nothing official will happen, it'll go on behind the scenes. She will continue to do her work in the back room, under the table, in the car park, wherever she does her work. So I'm going to say she gets away with this one. Love to be wrong. And let's hope the 11th Circuit comes along and dishes it up on a silver platter. Now, I promised you Texas and Florida. Interesting, because there was talk at the time, you remember a few years ago, there was talk about dodgy things going on in Texas when Beto had enormous momentum. And some would say Beto even won a few counties, and yet the system is so cast iron. They've done this for so long. This isn't new to Texas. This isn't new to Georgia. This isn't new to Kentucky. They're used to keeping people off the rolls. That's what they do for a living. How can we stop people voting? But let's see what shape Texas is in now. This is now. There's still room for maneuver either way, but let's look right now. If the vote was tomorrow in Texas, let's have a look at what Texas is looking like, please. What's going on in Texas? I'm loving seeing these states movement at last. Movement at last. Texas. People working together. That could well be both sides of the aisle. Oh, jeez. All right. So at the moment, it's not like a total blue tsunami or anything. I don't want you to get excited, but they're actually doing their dirty dealings. So I think this is both the Republicans doing their dirty dealings, but it's also momentum that is being gathered on the Democratic side of people who are probably exhausted, burnt out, and weren't that engaged, are now engaged. So, like I said, I think this is both sides working together. Of course, no prize for guessing which side is the most ruthless, which side will win at any cost. They will stop at nothing. This is their raison d'etre. Now, the magician, who often for me is Jack Smith, but even if he's not expressly involved, I think this is someone massively powerful in Texas who has that extra gravitas. This is someone who can maybe, oh, I just thought of that. I think this could even be through, because there are some pockets of evangelicals who are publicly abandoning Trump. The Mormons in their own Mormon land did it. Some evangelicals are. I wonder if this isn't someone who's a compelling speaker in a religious context. It might be some reverend or something who speaks the truth in such a way that it's really hard to unhear it in a good way. I like this. Page of Cups, this is young people. And with the surprise news here, encourage any young people you know in your family, neighbours, at work, anything else, get registered and everybody check their registration. The outcome card was the King of Pentacles. Doesn't send me crazy with delight. This is someone who uses money to maintain power. So I think at the moment, they're running scared. They're running scared. But as we're sitting here, money is now being pumped late in the day into Texas. So we'll keep an eye on Texas. Now, oh, speaking of Jack Smith, in October, which is really soon, and it's going to be an epic month, um, Jack Smith gets to unveil all his, well, not all his evidence, but a huge slab of it in the public domain in that sense of saying it. So we have to keep a lookout. Now, have I missed anything else? Only that young Baron, the disappointments are so predictable, aren't they? Sadly, I stayed away from him for years. However, he's public. What does he do with his first public foray out there with a tweet that was so filthy and so abusive about Kamala Harris that it was immediately taken down and he was banned? It's only a suspension, I guess, from X. That's his first foray in and he's been banned. So he's a chip off the old block. Okay, Florida. Florida, 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 Florida. Come on, Florida. You can do this. Florida. Same deal as Texas if the election was tomorrow. No, no, I was waiting for the Seven of Swords. We got the Five of Swords last time. Oh my God. Okay. It's very interesting. So they are, of course, putting things in place to steal it. So they're worried too that neither Texas or Florida, I believe, I'm merely an Australian sociologist, but I have followed American politics for 40 odd years. Both these states are on the turn. They're going blue. So they have to steal. They've already started in the dead of night. Now, again, the victory cards turned up, but whose victory? We have the Four of Pentacles. I don't think enough money is being spent in Florida. If I was a Republican, I'm hoping that's what it means. So the Republican Party doesn't have much money to play with in the conventional election sense. What I got in Texas was big private money, and I'm sure Florida can access big private money too. But Florida is a bit more mixed in the sense that because the Yeti runs away by the daughter-in-law with all the money that gets donated to the party, they haven't been spending what they need to. They're coming to the end of a cycle here. They've tried everything with the Dems. They've tried burning books. They've tried absolutely everything they can. They've tried a war with Disney. This is where woke goes to die, etc., which is no longer a winning formula. And it's like they've done their dash. So I'm not nailing this to the mast yet. It's still early. And as we know, look what's happened in the last month and 6 weeks. Imagine what's going to happen the next month or 6 weeks. So I'm going to look at this as a victory here for the Dems. Let's hope it's not stolen. They'll do their best and utmost to steal it, but let's hope that. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? But I don't want you to get your hopes up too prematurely because everyone has to get out and vote. Can people from Florida and Texas let me know your take on it? Because my sense is Ron DeSantis is now quite unpopular on the ground. A lot of properties can't be insured. Most parents, last time I looked, actually preferred their kids to go to a school where the teachers were educated and trained and their kids were actually taught something. But that might be just the old cynic in me talking, you know. So look, guys, don't forget, when is the VP debate? The joke going round is it's the coach versus the couch. How hilarious. The coach versus the couch. And I will put up, I never thought I'd put up a Nick Fuentes, but it's not him on his channel. I made sure because I didn't want to give him a single view. So I got it from another journalist source, but it's 5 or 10 minutes of him telling you why he is grossly disenchanted with the Neanderthal 45. Awesome. Okay, guys, stay safe and I'll be back before you know it. Take care. Bye.